Well, Donald Trump is complaining today about President Biden's 53-year-old son, Hunter Biden, agreeing to plead guilty to the tax violation of paying his taxes late, not paying his taxes on time. Hunter Biden paid the taxes in full. He just didn't do it fast enough. And Hunter Biden agreed with the U.S. attorney in Delaware, who was appointed by Donald Trump, that he did not tell the truth when he applied for a gun permit. Hunter Biden signed a form saying he was not addicted to drugs at a time when he has publicly confessed, including in his book, that he was addicted to drugs. The U.S. attorney appointed by Donald Trump has decided not to prosecute Hunter Biden for falsely filling out the gun license application as long as Hunter Biden remains on good behavior during the terms of the probation he will likely receive for the tax misdemeanor that he will plead guilty to. No court date is yet set for when Hunter Biden will plead guilty. Many legal observers today have said that under similar circumstances, a taxpayer and gun permit applicant who was not famous might not be charged at all for anything in cases identical to Hunter Biden's. But Donald Trump is very, very angry that Hunter Biden is not being charged with more crimes for which there is absolutely no evidence. And Donald Trump is very angry that Hunter Biden will not be going to prison for not paying his taxes in full on time. Donald Trump apparently believes that if you violate a legal deadline, you must go to prison.
Well, why not just hand them over then?
Because I had boxes. I want to go through the boxes and get all my personal things out. I don't want to hand that over to NARA yet. And I was very busy.
I don't want to hand that over yet. Donald Trump had a legal deadline, and he didn't want to hand it over yet. A legal deadline in the form of a federal subpoena. And he violated that deadline because, as you just heard him say, I don't want to hand that over yet. Donald Trump did not comply with a federal subpoena because he didn't want to. And now he is charged with crimes, some of which carry a maximum sentence of 20 years. The maximum sentence for criminal tax evasion is 5 years. So the laws, as written, make it very clear that the crimes Donald Trump is charged with are much, much, much more serious than anything Hunter Biden has been investigated for. And you can be sure that if Donald Trump is convicted on all 37 counts that he is now facing in a prosecution brought by Special Prosecutor Jack Smith, Donald Trump will insist that he should not get 1 day of prison or even 1 day of home confinement, even though other people convicted of possessing documents, like the documents Donald Trump possessed, have gotten prison sentences. Today, in the case of United States of America versus Donald J. Trump, the presiding judge, Trump appointee, Aileen Mercedes Kennan, set a trial date, quote, during the 2-week period commencing August 14th, 2023, or as soon thereafter, as the case may be called. Judge Kennan said that she wants pretrial motions filed by July 24th, and her written order says, quote, all hearings will be held at United States Courthouse, Fort Pierce, Florida, with modifications to be made as necessary as this matter proceeds. That clearly means that all pretrial hearings will be held in Judge Cannon's courtroom in Fort Pierce, Florida, but it leaves open the possibility that the trial could be held in one of the other federal courthouses in the Southern District of Florida, including the Miami Federal Courthouse, which might be considered the safest courthouse for security reasons, or the West Palm Beach Courthouse, since the indictment was filed in West Palm Beach. Last night, Donald Trump gave conflicting answers about why he was in possession of war plans against Iran. And joining us now to consider those conflicting answers are Neil Katyal, former acting U.S. Solicitor General, Glenn Kirshner, former federal prosecutor and host of the Justice Matters podcast, and Dave Ehrenberg, the state attorney for Palm Beach County, Florida. Now, let's listen to Donald Trump's first answer about possessing war plans against Iran.
Why did you have this very sensitive national security defense documents, like the war plans for a strike on Iran?
So like every other president, I take things out. And in my case, I took it out pretty much in a hurry.
I took it out in a hurry. So there you hear Donald Trump admitting that he took Iran war plans and did it in a hurry. Then Donald Trump later seemed to say that he doesn't know if he took Iran war plans.
These boxes were interspersed with all sorts of things, golf shirts, clothing, pants, shoes. There were many things. I would say much more, not that I know of, but everything was declassified.
Now it's not that I know of. Donald Trump's criminal defense lawyers, because they are not allowed to lie to the court, have not tried to ever say in court that everything was declassified. In Donald Trump's final exchange about Iran war plans last night, he went from, as we've seen, first admitting that he took the plans when he left the White House and took them in a hurry, to then saying he didn't know if he had the plan, to then finally denying that he had such a document.
According to the indictment, you were here at Bedminster on July 21st, 2021, after you're no longer president, and you were recorded saying that you had a document detailing a plan of attack on another country that was prepared by the U.S. military for you when you were president, the Iran attack plan. You remember that?
Ready?
You were recorded.
It wasn't a document.
Okay.
I had lots of paper. I had copies of newspaper articles. I had copies of magazines.
I know. This is specifically a quote. You're quoted on the recording saying the document was secret, adding that you could have declassified it while you were president, but, quote, now I can't. You know, this is still secret, highly confidential. And the indictment cites the recording and the testimony from people in the room saying you showed it to people there that day. So you say on this, on tape,
it says just the opposite.
That you can't declassify. So why have it?
When I said that I couldn't declassify it now, that's because I wasn't president. I never made any bones about that. When I'm not president, I can't declassify it.
And that's what you said. You didn't declassify it.
I said no. I said I couldn't.
Could have
but that wasn't a
declassified
document, Brett. There was no document.